She forged my signature and said I ruined her life? That's what my sister screamed after I refused to co-sign her seventh loan. 30 grand for another doomed skincare hustle. I didn't just say no, I locked the door behind her, but within hours, she'd posted a sob story online, said I kicked her out during a medical emergency. Family believed her, friends turned cold, and then a rejection letter landed on my desk for a loan I never signed, filed from inside my own department. She stole my digital signature, and if I didn't prove it in 2 weeks, I'd lose everything. But I had one edge. I worked in compliance, and this time, I was done cleaning up her mess. But before we begin, let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. My name is Rachel Kessler, and I'm 33 years old. I work in compliance at Riverfront Regional Bank, live alone in my beige-walled condo, and spend most evenings with spreadsheets and chamomile tea. My older sister Vanessa, the one with the platinum hair and designer everything, has already maxed out 6 loans I've co-signed, each one preceded by tears and promises of change. Our parents, David and Marie, stopped enabling her years ago, but I kept trying to help, kept believing tomorrow would be different. My shoulders still tense when her name lights up my phone. What she doesn't know is that I've been quietly changing passwords, moving documents, closing joint accounts. The weight of her next crisis already sits in my chest, but this time, I'm ready. But let me start from the beginning. The doorbell rang at 7:30 on a Tuesday night. I'd just settled in with my budget spreadsheet and a mug of chamomile. You know that perfect moment when your yoga pants are on and the world feels manageable? Yeah, that's when Vanessa showed up. I peered through the peephole and my stomach dropped. There she stood in a cream-colored blazer that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. Platinum hair swept into that effortless-looking style that definitely took 2 hours at the salon. Have you ever watched a hurricane approach through your window? That's what opening my door to Vanessa felt like. Rachel! She breezed past me in a cloud of Chanel No. 5, the same perfume she'd worn since high school. I was in the neighborhood and thought, oh my God, are those the same curtains from last year? I crossed my arms, tracking her circuit around my living room. They work fine, Vanessa. What's going on? She perched on my couch like she was posing for Instagram, all long legs and practiced smile. Can a girl visit her baby sister? Though, her smile faltered just enough. I actually need to talk to you about something important. My throat tightened. I knew that tone, the same one she'd used before the personal loan for her sure thing yoga studio, and the business loan for her pop-up boutique, and the consolidation loan that was supposed to fix everything else. What is it? So I've been thinking about my future, about really getting serious, you know? She leaned forward, eyes bright. I've found this amazing opportunity. Premium skincare line, totally organic, celebrity endorsements lined up. The profit margins are insane. I sank into my armchair, fingers pressed against my temples. Vanessa? Just hear me out. I only need $30,000 to get started. It'll consolidate my other payments too, so everything will be more manageable. The bank already has the paperwork ready. She pulled out a folder, glossy with promise. All they need is your signature as cosigner. One last time, Rach. I swear. One last time, like the last 5 last times. I could smell her desperation beneath the designer perfume, see the slight tremor in her manicured hands. No. What? I said no, Vanessa. I can't co-sign any more loans. Her face froze, then crumpled. But you're my sister. You're supposed to help me. I have helped you. 6 times. My credit can't take another hit. And honestly, I took a deep breath. Neither can I. The transformation was instant. Her vulnerability vanished like stage makeup wiped clean, replaced by something cold and sharp. So that's it? You're just going to abandon me when I'm finally getting my life together. This isn't abandonment, it's a boundary. She stood up, gathering her designer bag with jerky movements. A boundary? That's what you call throwing your own sister to the wolves? Her laugh could have cut glass. You know what? Mom and Dad might have bought your perfect daughter act, but I see right through you. You love this, having power over me. Vanessa, that's not... You ruined my life. She spat the words like poison. Remember that when you're sitting here alone with your perfect credit score and your cheap curtains? The door slammed behind her hard enough to rattle my sensible target frames. I double-locked it, hands shaking, then slid down to sit on my entryway floor. The silence felt thick enough to choke on. My phone buzzed around midnight. Vanessa's Facebook post glowed up at me. Some people are family in name only. Guess blood isn't always thicker than water. Already, sympathetic comments were rolling in. Stay strong, honey. Some people just don't understand family. You deserve better. I shut off my phone and stared at my dark ceiling, her words echoing in my head. You ruined my life. The thing about lies is, hear them enough times and they start to sound like truth. The next morning hit like a hangover, even though I hadn't touched a drop. My phone showed 12 missed calls, 3 from Mom, 2 from Aunt Linda, and a cluster from cousins I hadn't spoken to since last Christmas. Remember when phone calls were just for catching up, not damage control? I was buttering toast when Mom's familiar ringtone chirped again. Honey, what's going on with your sister? She's not answering anyone's calls. My knife clattered against the plate. She came by yesterday, wanted me to co-sign another loan. I said no. Another? Mom's voice hitched. Rachel, she told everyone you threw her out when she came to you about a medical emergency. The toast turned to sawdust in my mouth. What? Linda said Vanessa's been crying all night. Something about needing surgery? Why wouldn't you help her? Mom, there wasn't any medical emergency. She wanted $30,000 for a skincare business. Silence crackled between us. Are you sure? Because her Facebook... I have to go to work. I hung up, hands trembling. The memory of Vanessa's perfume still lingered in my living room, but now it felt toxic, choking. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Linda. Brunch on Sunday is canceled. I think it's best if we all take some space. Space. Right. Because I was the toxic one now. At work, the whispers started the moment I stepped onto the compliance floor. Karen from accounting gave me a wide berth in the break room. 2 analysts stopped talking when I passed their cubicles. I tried to focus on my monitor, on the steady stream of verification reports that usually centered me. Rachel? It was Melissa from my team, hovering by my desk with that look people get at funerals. Are you okay? We all saw Vanessa's post. My stomach dropped. What post? She pulled out her phone, angling it toward me. There was Vanessa, mascara artfully smeared, platinum hair deliberately messy. The caption read, "When your own blood kicks you while you're down. Betrayed, our toxic family. Pray for me." The comment section was a war zone of support, for her. Stay strong, Queen. Some people show their true colors in crisis. Blood isn't always family. I had to mute notifications, Melissa whispered. It's been shared like hundreds of times. I deleted my social media apps right there, hands shaking as I jabbed at my screen, but it was like trying to stop a flood with a paper towel. My cousin Taylor texted, "Praying for you both. Hope you find peace with whatever's hurting you," as if I was the one causing pain. The afternoon mail cart squeaked past, dropping a letter on my desk. Bank letterhead. Probably another compliance report, except the envelope was addressed to me personally, not my department. Inside was a loan rejection notice. Standard format, familiar since I processed dozens weekly in compliance, but this one froze my blood. There, listed as attempted cosigner, was my name. My signature, not quite right, but close enough to pass a quick glance. The room tilted sideways. $30,000, Vanessa's loan. She'd forged my signature and applied anyway. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I pulled up our department's fraud reporting system. The signature, I knew that signature. It wasn't a fresh forgery. It was from my old digital signature file, the one I'd used years ago when Vanessa and I still shared cloud storage for family photos and documents, the one I thought I'd deleted. A new email notification popped up. Mandatory ethics review meeting, tomorrow 9 a.m. The subject line blurred as tears pricked my eyes. Ethics review, in my own department, where I was supposed to be the one catching fraud, not committing it. Melissa's concerned face appeared over my cubicle wall. Rachel, the whole floor's talking about some kind of investigation. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The walls of my carefully built life were crumbling, and all I could hear was Vanessa's voice. You ruined my life. No, sister. You're ruining mine. I stumbled through security, flashing my badge with trembling hands. The familiar ding of the elevator felt wrong now, like everything in my carefully ordered world had shifted 2 inches to the left. The compliance floor, my home turf for 6 years, stretched before me in its usual fluorescent-lit glory. But today, the rows of cubicles felt like a maze designed to trap me. Remember when you first started here? The smell of fresh coffee and new carpet had promised stability, safety, a place where following the rules meant everything would be okay. Rachel. Rebecca's voice cut through my spiral. My supervisor stood in her office doorway, glasses perched on her nose, expression unreadable. Come in, please. I'd seen that look before, when we caught the teller skimming last year, when the VP's son tried to push through a fake business loan. But I'd always been on the other side of that desk. Close the door, Rebecca said. My legs felt wooden as I sank into the visitor's chair. The autumn sun slanted through her window, catching dust motes in its beam. How many times had I sat here discussing other people's violations? We need to talk about the loan application that came through yesterday. Rebecca's voice was carefully neutral. It was flagged by our automated system due to some irregularities. I didn't sign anything. The words tumbled out. Vanessa, my sister, she must have... Rebecca held up a hand. The application came through your department's internal channel. That's what concerns us most. Someone with compliance credentials processed this. My stomach lurched. Internal channel? That meant... The digital signature matches our records for you, she continued. And the routing suggests whoever submitted this had access to restricted compliance protocols. But I would never... I stopped, the pieces clicking together. The shared cloud drive, my old signature file. Vanessa had used my laptop last Christmas to show Mom vacation photos. Had she been planning this even then? Rachel. Rebecca removed her glasses, rubbing the bridge of her nose. You've been with us 6 years. Your record is spotless. That's why this is so concerning. The sun had shifted, throwing shadows across her desk. 6 years of perfect evaluations, of being the reliable one, the rule follower. Now this. We have to open an ethics review. She said it gently, but each word felt like a hammer blow. Standard procedure when potential fraud involves compliance personnel. How long? My voice sounded distant, hollow. The board meets in 2 weeks. Until then, you'll be on restricted access. She slid a paper across her desk. We need to move quickly. If the signature proves fraudulent, we'll pursue criminal charges against the perpetrator. If not... She didn't finish. She didn't have to. I knew the penalty for compliance fraud. Immediate termination, industry blacklisting. Everything I'd built, gone in an instant. 2 weeks, I repeated. The paper trembled in my hands, a formal notice of investigation. My own department's letterhead mocked me from the top. I'm trying to help you, Rachel. Rebecca's voice softened. But I need the truth. All of it. The truth. I thought of Vanessa's tearful Facebook post, the family drama she'd spun from nothing. How could I prove I was innocent when she'd spent years perfecting her victim's story? I'll cooperate fully, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. I can provide documentation of previous incidents, show you the pattern. Start with the digital records, Rebecca interrupted. Email trails, access logs, anything that proves you didn't submit this application. We'll need it all before the board meets. 2 weeks, 14 days to save my career, my reputation, everything I'd worked for. And somewhere out there, Vanessa was probably still crying to anyone who would listen about her heartless sister. One more thing, Rebecca said as I stood. This stays confidential. No discussing it with anyone outside this office. I nodded, clutching the investigation notice. The walk back to my desk felt like miles. 2 weeks to prove my innocence. 2 weeks before the ethics board would decide if I was a criminal or a victim. My computer screen glowed accusingly. Somewhere in these systems was the proof I needed. I just had to find it before time ran out. I must have called Vanessa 20 times that afternoon. Each time, straight to voicemail. My texts showed as undelivered, blocked. Even my email bounced back. Classic Vanessa move, create chaos, then vanish until everyone else cleaned up her mess. My hands shook as I stared at my phone. The investigation notice sat on my desk like a ticking bomb. The sunshine streaming through my office window felt like it was mocking me, bright and cheerful while my world crumbled. Remember when we were kids and the worst crisis was who got the last cookie? Those simple battles seemed like fairy tales now. The message notification made me jump. Hey, Rachel. Been a while. Got something you should see. Greg? Vanessa's ex? Now there was a name I hadn't seen in years. He'd dated my sister for 2 chaotic years before finally breaking things off when, surprise, her lies caught up with her. I'd always liked Greg. He had this way of seeing through Vanessa's drama without being cruel about it. "What is it?" I typed back. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, appeared again. My stomach clenched. "Screenshots," he wrote. "From that group chat V never left after we broke up. Think you need to see these." The first image loaded. My throat went dry. Vanessa. "Guys, I did it." Sarah. "Did what?" Vanessa. "Applied for that loan. Used Rachel's old signature file. Megan. OMG girl, what if she finds out?" Vanessa. "Please, she'll cave like always. She never lets me suffer consequences." The timestamp was from 3 days ago, before she'd even asked me to co-sign. More screenshots followed. Vanessa laying out her whole plan, how she'd guilt me into covering for her once the loan went through, how she'd already spent the money in her head. "Rachel's such a rule follower," she'd written. "She'd die if anyone thought she committed fraud. She'll fix it." My chair creaked as I leaned back. The office sounds faded to white noise. You know that moment when you realize someone's been playing you? When all those little doubts suddenly crystallize into one sharp truth? Yeah, this was mine. "There's more," Greg messaged. "She's been bragging about this for weeks. Even showed everyone your old signature file from when you helped with Mom's medical forms." I remembered that file. Created it to help manage Mom's appointments during her hip surgery. Vanessa had insisted on being included in the shared drive to help. Right. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked Greg. The reply came quickly. "Because karma's overdue, and because you were always decent to me, even after V tried to trash my reputation." My printer hummed to life as I forwarded the screenshots. One by one, the pages emerged, concrete proof of premeditation, of manipulation, of my sister expecting me to sacrifice myself to save her. Again. I grabbed a legal pad and started writing. If she'd accessed my signature file, what else had she used? The shared cloud drive, my old laptop. That time she borrowed my work ID to surprise me with lunch. Each memory sparked another possibility. The list grew. My handwriting got messier as fury replaced shock. This wasn't just opportunistic betrayal. This was calculated, planned. She'd counted on my predictability, my need to keep peace, my reflex to protect her. "Thank you," I typed to Greg. "I mean it." "Good luck," he wrote back. "Give her hell." I looked at my growing list, at the damning screenshots. The sunshine didn't feel mocking anymore. It felt clarifying, illuminating. Every shadow where Vanessa had hidden her schemes suddenly stood out in sharp relief. My phone buzzed again. Another Facebook notification, Vanessa posting more cryptic sadness about family betrayal. The comments poured in, all sympathy and heart emojis. None of them knew they were watching a performance. But I had the script now, the evidence, the proof that while she played victim publicly, she'd bragged privately about manipulating me, about using my reputation as her safety net. The fury in my chest hardened into something else, something focused, clinical. I clicked on the investigation notice and started typing my official response. Time to show my sister what happened when you push the rule follower too far. Have you ever tried to prove a negative? It's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. The harder you grasp, the more it slips away. I spread everything across my dining room table, which hadn't seen this much action since. Well, since the last time Vanessa needed help organizing her business expenses. The irony wasn't lost on me. Exhibit A, I muttered, arranging Vanessa's social media posts in chronological order. The progression was almost artistic, from subtle hints about family troubles to full-blown martyrdom, complete with crying selfies and vague mentions of medical issues. Each post had its own comment section full of hearts and praying for you messages. My hands shook as I clicked through the consumer protection website. 3 hours of reading had given me a crash course in identity theft and fraud reporting, but everything circled back to the same problem. I had to prove I hadn't signed that application. The clock on my microwave blinked 11:47 p.m., 10 days. That's all I had left before the ethics board made their decision. I pulled out my evidence box, a shoebox filled with every card Vanessa had ever sent me. Birthday wishes, Christmas thanks, even little just because notes from our better days. Remember those flowery gel pens she used to love? The ones that made everything smell like artificial grape? I caught a whiff of that scent as I spread the cards out, comparing her handwriting to the loan application. "See?" I said to no one, pointing at the loops in her Y's and G's. Classic Vanessa. But would the ethics board see it? Or would they just see a desperate woman trying to dodge responsibility? My phone buzzed. Another forum notification. I'd posted anonymously on 3 different legal advice sites, each time getting variations of the same response. Without direct proof of forgery, it's your word against the documentation. The Consumer Protection Hotline had been just as frustrating. "Ma'am, can you prove you didn't authorize the signature?" "How can I prove I didn't do something?" "Well, was the signature file password protected?" "No, but..." "And did you ever give your sister access to shared drives?" "Yes, but for something completely different." "I see." That "I see" felt like a door closing. I lined up my evidence. Screenshots from Greg showing Vanessa's bragging, timestamps from the loan application, printouts of her social media campaign, handwriting samples, even a timeline of when she'd had access to my devices. It looked impressive spread out like that. Professional, thorough, and completely useless. Because none of it, not one single piece, could definitively prove I hadn't authorized that signature. The ethics board wouldn't care about her pattern of manipulation or her social media theatrics. They needed hard proof. My eyes burned from staring at screens all day. The apartment felt too quiet, too empty. Even my usual comfort foods, the emergency chocolate stash in my freezer, the fancy tea I saved for bad days, couldn't touch this kind of stress. I checked my work email again. No new messages, just that same ominous calendar invite for the ethics board hearing. 10 days. How had I gone from being the responsible one, the steady one, to possibly losing my entire career? The stack of papers mocked me from the table. All this evidence, and still no smoking gun. No security camera footage of Vanessa forging my signature. No email trail of her admitting to fraud. Nothing concrete enough to save my job. My phone lit up with another Facebook notification. Vanessa had posted again. Sometimes the universe has strange ways of showing you who really has your back. The comments poured in, right on cue. Our cousin Emily had even written, "Family should always come first." I wanted to scream. To reply with screenshots of Vanessa's group chat bragging, to expose every calculated move she'd made. But that would only make me look desperate, vindictive, exactly what she wanted. Instead, I just stared at my wall calendar, at the red circle around the ethics board date. 10 days to prove my innocence, 10 days to save my career, 10 days before my sister's manipulation either destroyed everything I'd built or succeeded in forcing me to cave like always. The worst part? A tiny voice in my head whispered that maybe it would be easier to just give in, to say I'd authorized the signature under stress, to take the hit to my credit, to play my usual role in Vanessa's drama. But then I looked at her group chat messages again. She'll cave like always. No, not this time. I just had to figure out how to prove it. The next morning, I walked into Rebecca's office, clutching my evidence folder like a shield. She'd always intimidated me a little. Something about how her glasses caught the light when she was thinking hard. But today, I needed her analytical mind more than ever. "I've gathered everything I could," I said, spreading out the documents on her desk. The handwriting samples, the timestamps, even screenshots of Vanessa basically admitting to it. Rebecca picked up one of Vanessa's old birthday cards, studying the looping signature. Her face gave away nothing, but her fingers drummed steadily on her desk, the same rhythm she used during difficult client meetings. "You learn these things after 5 years in the next office over." "The handwriting analysis is compelling," she said finally. "And these group chat screenshots. Your sister seems quite confident about her plan." My shoulders relaxed slightly. "So you believe me?" "Rachel." She took off her glasses and my stomach dropped. I knew that tone. It was her "there's something you don't know" voice. The signature on the loan application wasn't handwritten. It was digital. Digital? The word felt wrong in my mouth. But I never... It was your old signature file. The one from the Henderson account 3 years ago. It's still stored on the shared drive. The room tilted sideways. That file. Of course. I'd given Vanessa access to that drive back when she was helping me organize some family photos. She must have found it then, just waiting for the right moment. "But that signature's outdated," I protested. "I haven't used it in years." "It doesn't matter." Rebecca's voice was gentle but firm. According to our systems, it's still a valid authorization method. The file was never formally revoked or deleted. My throat closed up. This was worse than a forged signature. This was my own digital footprint, stored on my own system, used against me. And I had no way to prove I hadn't authorized its use. The ethics board will see this as negligent at best, Rebecca continued. You left an active signature file accessible to someone who had previous authorization to the drive. From a compliance standpoint, she didn't need to finish. I knew exactly how it looked from a compliance standpoint. It looked like I'd either been incredibly careless with sensitive files or had actually authorized the loan and was now trying to back out. How long? My voice cracked. How long has she had access to that drive? Rebecca checked her computer. The last login from her IP address was 3 days ago, right when the loan application was submitted. I pressed my palms flat against her desk, trying to steady myself. The evidence I'd gathered suddenly seemed pathetic. What good were handwriting samples against digital proof? What did social media drama matter when there was a legitimate signature file involved? I need to go, I mumbled, gathering my papers with shaking hands. Rebecca called after me, but I barely heard her. I made it to my car before the tears started. The parking garage was empty. Everyone else had gone home hours ago. Just me and the fluorescent lights and the crushing weight of realization. The sobs came in waves, ugly, gasping things that fogged up my windows and made my chest ache. I'd been so careful all these years, building my career, maintaining my boundaries. And now Vanessa had found the perfect weapon. My own digital signature, my own professional standards, turned against me. You know what the worst part was? She'd probably found that file years ago, just waiting for the right moment. Waiting until I finally said no, until she could make me pay for daring to have limits. I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. Mascara everywhere, nose red, completely unprofessional. Some compliance officer I was, sobbing in a parking garage because I couldn't even secure my own signature file. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. Vanessa says you're not returning her calls. She's really hurting, honey. Fresh tears spilled. Of course she was playing the victim. Of course everyone believed her. Why wouldn't they? She had actual proof this time. Proof I'd practically gift-wrapped for her by being careless with that drive access. I leaned my forehead against the steering wheel, listening to the distant hum of the garage's ventilation system. 7 days left until the ethics board meeting. 7 days to somehow prove I hadn't authorized a signature that, technically, I had failed to protect. The next morning, my monitor's glow felt like it was burning my eyes. I'd been staring at the same spreadsheet for 20 minutes, not processing a single number. The office buzzed with its usual morning energy. Coffee runs, casual chatter, keyboard clicks, but it all felt distant, like I was underwater. My phone vibrated. Another message from Mom. Just talk to her. She's family. I turned the phone face down without responding. What could I even say? Hey, Mom, your favorite daughter committed fraud using my signature and might get me fired? Someone walked past my cubicle. Their steps slowed, then continued. It had been happening all morning. Everyone could sense something was off, but no one dared ask. Maybe they'd seen my red eyes. Maybe office gossip had already connected me to the ethics investigation. The remnants of a chocolate granola bar wrapper caught my eye, triggering a memory from last month. I'd shared half with Charlene during a late-night system upgrade. We'd gotten to talking, really talking, about family stuff. She'd mentioned her own sister draining her savings account years ago, using their mom's medical bills as leverage. The way Charlene described it felt so familiar. The guilt, the manipulation, the way everyone else enabled it. My hands started trembling again. I'd been so focused on gathering traditional evidence that I'd forgotten about the digital trail. And who knew more about digital footprints than our senior IT security analyst? I grabbed my phone and found Charlene's extension. Each ring felt like an eternity. It's security, this is Charlene. Hey, it's Rachel from compliance. My voice cracked. Do you have a minute? I need help. The line went quiet for a second. Then, come to my office, now. I practically ran there, dodging the usual hallway small talk. Charlene's office was at the end of the IT wing, all glass walls and clean lines. She was already closing the blinds when I arrived. Sit, she said, gesturing to a chair. She had that focused look I'd seen during security breaches. All business, no nonsense. I sank into the chair, suddenly unsure where to start. Remember when we talked about your sister? About what she did? Charlene's expression softened slightly. The savings account theft? Yeah, cost me my down payment and 3 years of trust issues. She leaned against her desk. What's going on, Rachel? The whole story spilled out. Vanessa's loan request, the rejection, the digital signature, everything. Charlene listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. And now I have 7 days, I finished, wiping my eyes with my sleeve. 7 days before I lose everything I've worked for because I was stupid enough to leave a signature file where she could find it. Stop. Charlene's voice was sharp. First, you're not stupid. You trusted family, that's human. Second, she tapped her pen against the pad. I might know how to trace that login. My heart skipped. What do you mean? Every time someone accesses our shared drives, it leaves a footprint. IP address, timestamp, duration, everything. She started typing rapidly. If your sister logged in from her workplace to grab that file. The salon, I said quickly. She works at Glamour and Grace on 5th Street. Charlene nodded, still typing. Their network would have a static IP. If we can match that IP to the drive access logs, then cross-reference it with the loan application submission time. We could prove she took the file without my knowledge, I finished, sitting up straighter. Exactly. She glanced at me. But Rachel, this isn't just about proving your innocence anymore. This is computer fraud. If we find what I think we'll find, your sister could face serious charges. The weight of it hit me. This would be nuclear. No taking it back, no smoothing things over at Christmas dinner. But then I remembered her text. She'll cave like always. Do it, I said firmly. Show me what you need. Charlene's fingers flew across her keyboard, bringing up screens I'd never seen before. Our system keeps detailed logs of every file access, she explained, scrolling through what looked like an endless stream of code. IP addresses, timestamps, user credentials, it's all here. In English? I asked, leaning closer. She smiled slightly. Think of it like a digital fingerprint. Every time someone touches a file on our network, they leave traces, even if they're careful. The familiar scent of coffee from her desk reminded me of countless late nights I'd spent reviewing loan applications. How many times had I stayed late, doing everything by the book, while Vanessa had casually logged in to steal my signature? Here's your folder. Charlene pointed to a line of text. And these are all the access points from the last 30 days. She started filtering the data, her expression focused. We're looking for any login that doesn't match your usual patterns. I watched the numbers scroll by. What exactly are we looking for? External IP addresses. She grabbed a Post-it and scribbled something down. Most of your logins come from inside the building or your home network, but see these? She highlighted several lines in yellow. These are from somewhere else. My stomach tightened. Vanessa's salon? Let's find out. Charlene opened another window and started cross-referencing IP addresses. What's the salon's exact address? Glamour and Grace, 528 5th Street. The words tasted bitter in my mouth. More typing, more scrolling. Then Charlene sat back, a small escaping her lips. What? I gripped the edge of her desk. What is it? Look at this. She pointed to a cluster of highlighted entries. 3 separate logins from the same IP address, all from a business district network that includes 528 5th Street. My hand started shaking. When? First access was 2 weeks ago, just browsing. Then again 3 days later, longer session. And the final one? She tapped the screen. Exactly 20 minutes before your signature showed up on that loan application. Oh my God! The room felt suddenly airless. Can you prove it was definitely from the salon? Charlene was already pulling up another screen. The IP address is registered to their business network. And look at the timestamps, all during salon business hours. I stared at the evidence, remembering all those times Vanessa had texted me from work, complaining about slow days when the salon was empty. She'd had plenty of time to plan this. Print everything, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Charlene nodded, sending the logs to her printer. We should also request the salon's employee schedule for these dates. If we can prove she was working during these exact times. She posts everything on Instagram, I cut in, pulling out my phone. She's always taking selfies at work, showing off her boss babe life. I scrolled through her feed, screenshot after screenshot filling my camera roll. Here, all 3 days, all with timestamps. Perfect. Charlene started organizing the printouts into a folder. This is what we call a digital paper trail. The ethics board won't be able to ignore it. I looked at the growing stack of evidence: access logs, IP traces, timestamps, screenshots. It was all there in black and white, proof that my sister had deliberately logged in, stolen my signature, and forged a loan application. Rachel. Charlene's voice was gentle but firm. You know what this means, right? This isn't just an ethics violation anymore. It's computer fraud, criminal charges. I nodded slowly, remembering Vanessa's words. You ruined my life. The irony wasn't lost on me. 4 days, I said, checking my calendar. The ethics board meets in 4 days. Is this enough time to verify everything? I'll help you compile it properly. Charlene started making notes. We'll need to document the chain of evidence, prepare a timeline, and make sure every single detail is airtight. I gathered the papers with trembling hands, the weight of what we'd discovered finally hitting me. This wasn't just about saving my job anymore. This was about stopping a pattern that had started long ago, one I'd enabled for far too long. Thank you, I whispered, clutching the folder to my chest. Charlene gave me a knowing look. Sometimes protecting yourself means making hard choices, especially with family. The access logs felt heavy in my hands, like all those years of saying yes, of making excuses, of cleaning up Vanessa's messes had finally crystallized into something tangible. Something I couldn't ignore anymore. I spread everything across my dining room table that night, organizing the evidence into neat little piles that told our story. You know those crime shows where they have bulletin boards covered in photos and red string? That's what my condo looked like, minus the string. Instead, I had color-coded folders and sticky notes everywhere. The screenshots from Greg showed Vanessa's premeditation. Her social media posts proved she was at work during the suspicious logins. The IP traces Charlene helped me gather painted a perfect digital trail right to her computer at the salon. And there, sitting in its own manila folder, was the forged loan application with my stolen signature. Remember those school projects where you stayed up all night getting everything perfect? This felt like that, but with my whole career hanging in the balance. At 3 a.m, I finally called it done. My eyes were burning and my back ached from hunching over papers for hours. The familiar scent of coffee gone cold reminded me of all those late nights I'd spent helping Vanessa with her emergencies. Funny how things come full circle. First thing Monday morning, I knocked on Rebecca's office door, arms full of organized evidence. "Come in," she called, looking up from her computer. Her expression softened slightly when she saw me. "You've been busy. I have proof." I set the folders down on her desk. All of it. Rebecca picked up the first folder, adjusting her glasses. "Walk me through it." For the next hour, I laid out the whole story. The timing of Vanessa's visit, the forged application, the social media campaign, the group chat screenshots, the IP traces. With each piece of evidence, Rebecca's expression grew more serious. "And here," I said, opening the final folder, "are the access logs showing exactly when she logged in from the salon's network, matched with her own Instagram posts proving she was there during those times." Rebecca studied the logs carefully, then looked up at me. "This is thorough work, Rachel." My throat tightened. "Is it enough?" She nodded grimly. "It's enough to bring forward. The ethics board meets tomorrow at 9. That night, I barely slept. Have you ever had that dream where you're trying to explain something important, but no words come out? That's what kept jolting me awake. The next morning, I chose my outfit carefully. Charcoal gray suit, white blouse, minimal jewelry. Professional, controlled. Everything Vanessa wasn't. The ethics board room felt colder than I remembered. 7 faces looked back at me from behind a curved table. Rebecca sat off to one side, my folders neatly arranged in front of her. "Ms. Kessler," the head of the board began, "please explain the situation in your own words." I took a deep breath and started speaking. My voice came out clearer than I expected, steady even. No tears, no drama, just facts. With each piece of evidence I presented, I could feel the room's energy shift. When I showed them the IP traces and access logs, one board member actually took off his glasses to lean in closer. Another started taking rapid notes. By the time I finished laying out the Instagram timestamps that proved Vanessa's location, the room had gone completely still. "And you never authorized your sister to use your digital signature?" the head of the board asked. "No. I said firmly. I never authorized any part of this loan application. They deliberated for exactly 27 minutes. I counted every single one. When they filed back in, the verdict was unanimous. I was cleared of all ethical violations. But they weren't done. Given the severity of the evidence, the head of the board announced, we are obligated to report this as felony fraud. The bank will be pressing charges against Vanessa Kessler. I nodded, my hands perfectly still in my lap. Wasn't this what I wanted? Justice? The room started emptying out. Rebecca touched my shoulder briefly as she passed. Take the rest of the day, she said quietly. I gathered my folders mechanically, each one feeling heavier than the last. The truth was supposed to set you free, right? But as I walked out of that boardroom, all I felt was weight. Not guilt, I'd done the right thing, but weight all the same. In the elevator, I caught my reflection in the polished doors. I looked exactly like myself, but something had shifted. Maybe it was in my eyes, or the set of my shoulders. The woman staring back at me wasn't just the good sister anymore. She was someone who had finally chosen herself. You know that eerie calm after a storm? When everything's still dripping but the sky's cleared up? That's what those first few days felt like after the ethics board ruling. I went back to work, did my job, and tried to ignore the weird mix of relief and heartache sitting in my chest. Then the notifications started rolling in. It began with a text from my cousin Marie. OMG, just heard what really happened. I'm so sorry I believed her. I was grabbing coffee when that one came through. The barista probably thought I was crazy, staring at my phone like it might bite me. Remember those fancy lattes Vanessa used to bring me when she needed money? Funny how even coffee can hold memories. More messages flooded in throughout the day. Aunt Sarah, I had no idea, sweetie. We should talk. Uncle Mike, this is shocking news about your sister. Even my mother's bridge partner felt the need to weigh in. Such a terrible situation, dear. I left them all on red. What was I supposed to say? Thanks for finally believing me after I had to prove it to a corporate ethics board. But when my childhood friend Beth messaged, the one who'd shared Vanessa's original pity party post, something in me snapped. Her message was typical. I feel awful. I should have known better. My thumbs moved before I could stop them. Now you do. Send. 3 little dots appeared immediately, then disappeared. Good. I was just starting to feel settled when my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a social media notification. Vanessa had tagged me in a post. My stomach dropped. I hadn't blocked her yet. Stupid oversight. There it was, her latest masterpiece. A carefully filtered photo of her looking wounded but determined, mascara perfectly smudged. The caption made my blood boil. To those asking about recent events. Yes, it's true. My own sister chose her job over family, but I'm not angry. I'm heartbroken. Sometimes the people who should protect you become your greatest betrayers. The lawsuit is just another attempt to silence me. But I won't be quiet about workplace discrimination and family abandonment. The truth will come out. Real victim, toxic workplace, family betrayal. She'd tagged both me and the bank. My phone started vibrating nonstop. Messages, comments, notifications. The post was spreading like wildfire through our extended network. Even some of my coworkers were viewing it. I could see their names pop up in the activity feed. You've got to be kidding me, I muttered, switching my phone to silent. Rebecca called me into her office an hour later. We've seen the post, she said, cutting straight to the chase. Legal's already on it. Don't engage. I nodded, feeling that familiar tightness in my chest. The hearing's next week. Yes. Rebecca leaned forward. And this kind of social media behavior? It's not going to help her case. Back at my desk, I pulled up the post again. The comments section was a war zone. Some people were still buying her victim act, but others were asking uncomfortable questions. Didn't you forge documents? Isn't fraud a crime? Vanessa was responding to every skeptic with vague accusations about toxic family dynamics, and the full story. My cursor hovered over the block button. One click and I could shut her out completely. But something stopped me. Maybe it was compliance officer instinct, maybe it was just self-preservation, but I needed to see what else she might say before the hearing. A new notification popped up, a private message from Vanessa. You can still fix this. Just tell them you changed your mind about pressing charges. We're sisters. I stared at those words until they blurred. Sisters. Right. Like when she forged my signature, like when she tried to destroy my career, like now, when she was still trying to manipulate everything. My phone buzzed again, an email from the bank's legal team. The hearing was scheduled for next Wednesday at 9 a.m. 7 days. 7 days of watching Vanessa spin her web of lies. 7 days of wondering who else would get caught in it. I closed her message without responding and turned back to my work. The spreadsheet numbers swam before my eyes, but I forced myself to focus. Let her post, let her tag, let her play victim all she wanted. The truth didn't need a social media campaign. The courthouse lobby felt like a meat locker, all marble and metal, chilling me straight through my blazer. I'd been here 15 minutes early, watching attorneys click past in power suits while I tried to keep my breakfast down. Remember when we were kids and Vanessa would blame me for breaking things she'd actually broken? The way Mom would sigh and say, "Just let it go, Rachel?" Funny how some things never change. Yet here we were, 25 years later, and for once, letting it go wasn't an option. My attorney touched my elbow. "They're ready." The courtroom doors seemed heavier than they should have been. Inside, everything gleamed with polished importance. The judge's bench, the wooden barriers, even the flag standing sentinel. I slid into place beside my lawyer, keeping my eyes forward when I heard the clip of familiar heels behind me. "All rise." The judge entered. A woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and reading glasses that caught the fluorescent lights. She had the kind of face that had seen every excuse in the book. "Be seated." Case number 2023 CV 4891, Regional Trust versus Vanessa Kessler. I watched Vanessa approach the podium when called. She'd dressed for sympathy. Subtle makeup, hair pulled back, wearing the kind of soft blue sweater she probably thought made her look vulnerable, but her hands were shaking when she gripped the podium. "Ms. Kessler," the judge began, "you stand accused of forgery and attempted bank fraud. The evidence presented shows you knowingly accessed private files to forge your sister's signature on a loan application. How do you plead?" Vanessa's voice cracked. "Guilty, Your Honor." She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "But I'd like to explain." "Proceed." "Your Honor, I was desperate. My business was failing, and I needed help. Rachel," her voice caught dramatically, "my sister, she's always been there for me. Always. I thought she'd understand once it was done. I never meant to hurt anyone." The judge's expression didn't change. "Continue." "Everything I did was because I had no choice. And now?" Vanessa turned, fixing me with tear-filled eyes. "Now she's ruined my life. I lost my job, my reputation. My own family won't speak to me. Over one mistake." Those words, again. My fingers dug into my palms, but I kept my face neutral. The judge didn't miss a beat. "Ms. Kessler, let me be clear. You committed felony fraud. You accessed private systems without authorization. You forged documents. You attempted to steal $30,000. Then, when caught, you launched a social media campaign to discredit your sister and her employer. These are not mistakes. These are choices." Vanessa's shoulders started to shake. "I know, Your Honor. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to make it right." "Please." "The court has reviewed your history, including the 6 prior loans your sister helped you secure. We've seen the evidence of your social media posts, your text messages bragging about the forgery, and your subsequent attempts to manipulate public opinion." The judge removed her glasses. "This shows a pattern of premeditated financial exploitation and emotional manipulation." I watched Vanessa's face crumple. For once, those tears looked real. "Taking into account your plea and lack of prior criminal record," the judge continued, "I sentence you to 2 years probation. You will pay full restitution of damages to Regional Trust, totaling $45,000, including legal fees. You are barred from accessing any financial services position or handling others' financial documents during your probation. Additionally, you will complete 200 hours of community service." The gavel crack echoed like a gunshot. Outside the courtroom, I gathered my belongings slowly, letting my attorney handle the paperwork. I just wanted to leave, to breathe air that didn't taste like other people's desperation. But then I heard it, those familiar footsteps. "Rachel, wait." I turned. Vanessa stood there, mascara finally smudged for real, hand outstretched like she could still pull me back into her orbit. "Please," she whispered. "You're my sister." I looked at her hand, the same hand that had signed my name, that had typed those vicious posts, that had held tissues through years of manufactured crap. Without a word, I turned and walked away. The drive home felt surreal, like I was floating above myself. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't feel much of anything. That night, I stood at my condo window, watching city lights flicker on one by one. The same view I'd had for years, but somehow everything looked different. Clearer, maybe, or just quieter. Morning light streamed through my kitchen window, casting long shadows across the counter where I'd laid everything out. The manila folder from the court clerk's office, the reinstatement letter from Regional Trust, crisp and official on company letterhead. And there, rubber-banded together, was the stack of papers that had nearly destroyed everything. Vanessa's forged loan application. You know that hollow feeling you get the morning after a storm? When everything's still damp and quiet, but somehow cleaner? That's what this felt like. I ran my fingers over the reinstatement letter again. Following a thorough investigation, we are pleased to confirm your continued employment. The words blurred a little. Not from tears, I was done with those, but from the sheer weight lifting off my shoulders. My shredder hummed to life when I plugged it in. It was one of those heavy-duty models I'd bought years ago for work documents. Back then, I'd imagined it would help protect other people's privacy. Funny how life works out. The first page was the loan application itself. My signature stared back at me, a perfect digital copy of one I'd used hundreds of times before. I remembered the day I'd created that signature file, teaching Vanessa how to upload her own for our shared family documents. "This makes everything so much easier," she'd said, smiling that sparkly smile. The memory tasted bitter now. I fed the page in slowly, watching the metal teeth catch and pull. The grinding sound felt satisfying in my bones, like justice had a soundtrack. The supporting documents went next. Bank statements she'd doctored, character references she'd forged. Each page disappeared into the shredder's maw, turning years of manipulation into confetti. Remember how I used to save everything? Every card, every note, every scrap of paper that proved I was the good sister, the responsible one. As if keeping evidence of my reliability somehow made it more real. God, we do such strange things to prove our worth to people who never actually see us. My phone buzzed. Probably another relative trying to check in now that the dust had settled. I let it go to voicemail. They'd all chosen their sides months ago. Their sudden concern felt like too little, too late. The last page was the rejection letter, the one that had started this whole avalanche. I held it up to the light, studying the official stamp that had first alerted the bank to possible fraud. Such a small thing, really. One person doing their job correctly. One moment of someone else paying attention. Into the shredder it went. When the final strip disappeared, I unplugged the machine and wiped my hands on my jeans. The gesture felt ritual-like. Cleansing. My balcony door slid open with a familiar squeak. I'd never gotten around to fixing that. The morning air hit my face, fresh and cool, carrying the scent of my neighbor's coffee and someone's dryer vent. Normal smells, safe ones. The sun was just cresting the buildings across the street, painting everything in soft gold. Below, early commuters hurried along the sidewalk, clutching travel mugs and phone calls. Their voices drifted up in fragments, ordinary people living ordinary lives. I leaned against the railing, letting the metal press cold through my sweater. How many mornings had I stood here, rehearsing conversations with Vanessa, planning how to fix her latest crisis, calculating what I could sacrifice to keep her afloat? But this morning was different. This morning, I didn't owe anyone anything. A sudden breeze lifted my hair, and I closed my eyes, breathing it in. The words came without planning, quiet but certain. Protecting your peace doesn't make you the villain. Behind me, through the glass door, I could see the empty shredder basket and the reinstatement letter on my counter. Proof that I'd chosen myself, that I'd survived. I straightened up, rolling my shoulders back. The sun felt warmer now, like it was finally reaching all the way through. I believe stories like this find us for a reason. If this one touched you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day, and tomorrow's might be the one your heart's been waiting for.